What is up, everybody? Kevin Iole here. Thank you for joining me. And right now, I would say one of the most popular fighters in the UFC, maybe the number two star in this company. I have to think, based on what's been going on. Sugar Sean O'Malley. I will be in Miami next week, UFC 299, as the Sugar Show goes to South Beach, and Sean O'Malley will defend his championship against Marlon Chito Vera. I was there with about 10 other people at UFC 252 when you fought Marlon Chito Vera. That's a rematch. But Sean, let's start with this. I watched over the last couple of days. I talked to Marlon yesterday, and over the last couple of days, I watched the fight about three or four times. And the one thing that I noticed in rewatching it that maybe you don't remember live is how hard you were landing those kicks. You had a number of really good body kicks and a couple push kicks, calf kicks that were really doing some damage. Do you think people, do you think people don't remember sort of how well you were fighting before the injury to your right foot?
Of course, they don't remember it. There's so much information constantly coming in on social media, and there's been thousands of fights since. So yeah, people remember, the main outcome, and that is what it is. But yeah, I agree. I think I was piecing him up, and I was about to put his lights out eventually. Um, but it's 3.5 years ago. Both of us have changed, and the fact that we get to rerun it right now while I'm defending it in Miami while I'm the champ. It's a crazy storyline.
The one thing that I think you don't get a lot of credit for that you should is the great toughness that you have shown in your fights over the years. Obviously, the Sukman Teeth fight, you basically couldn't walk in that fight against Vera. What is it in the mindset that you have when you have those kind of injuries? Some guys would tap and say, "Hey, I can't stand up," right? You kept fighting regardless of the circumstance, and I know that has to be a mindset. Can you walk me through sort of when you're in a fight and you get injured like that, what your thought process is?
Win, win at all costs. I'm a winner. I'm gonna compete until I can't compete anymore. I feel like you brought up the Sukumta fight. Broke my foot. That was a major surgery I had. I was out for 2 years with that foot injury. Even the Peter Yan fight, getting cracked with that crazy left hand he hit me with. Um, yeah, and then when Cheeto hit my nerve, my foot was completely asleep. I was still piecing him up. So I feel like I'm just a winner. I'm gonna do whatever I can do to win, and it's as simple as that. I've been competing my entire life, not in wrestling, not in boxing, not in fighting necessarily, but I've been playing sports my entire life, and I'm a winner.
There's something you see, and I think we see it in Patrick Mahomes, right? He's great all the time, but when he's in a big game, kind of is a little bit better in the playoffs, I mean, even better in the Super Bowl. Do you feel you have that mentality, and like, did you show that against the championship fight last year, where you went, against Aljo, knock him out with that big right hand? Like a lot of people were dotting you, the big wrestler, you're going to take you down and hold you down, and you put him out with that big right hand. Do you feel like you're a guy that when the moment is bigger, you're bigger?
100%. The brighter the lights, the brighter I shine. And yeah, I mean, I like that Patty reference. It's fun to watch superstars like that perform at such a high level. So yeah, I do believe the brighter the lights, the brighter I'll shine.
Do you learn anything from those guys? Like, I know there's a lot of, superstar NFL players, Miles Garrett, Max Crosby with the Raiders that are big MMA, UFC fans. Do you communicate with any of those guys and like, share kind of, tricks and competition, mentalities with some of those other fighters or some of those other athletes?
I haven't. I've talked a little bit to Max, but nothing crazy. I've talked a little bit on Instagram with Patrick Mahomes, but nothing really like that. Um, I'm sure there's similarities in performing at the highest of levels. And I'm sure I could learn stuff from them for sure, but I haven't had any talks with them.
In your last 10 fights, 8-1 with a no contest. Of course, the one was the fight with Marlon. The no contest was when Pedro Munoz couldn't continue because
Quit.
okay, quit, but because of a poke in the eye. But in those other fights, eight bonuses, what is it, three fight of the nights, five performance of the night. So you're able, you're being able to do that. Do you feel like this is an emphasis for you this time? Like not only just win, but go out there and remind people what was happening in the first part of the Marlon Vera fight.
Yeah, for me, I don't overthink it. I'm just gonna go out there and get in a fist fight with this dude, and I believe my skills are better than his skills, my speed's better than his speed, and that's pretty much where I leave it at. There's certain strategies I have going into this fight. I'm sure there's certain strategies he has going into the fight, but again, I don't really overthink it, and I just kind of go out there and flow and let the fight happen.
Do you believe this is going to be a kick heavy fight, assuming he likes to kick you? Obviously, that's a big part of your arsenal.
Oh yeah, I'm planning on it being a very kickboxing heavy fight, but it's also, it's an MMA fight. We've seen what Corey did to him. We've seen how he showed up sometimes. So I'm not, I learned my lesson with the Peter Yan fight. I thought that was going to be a kickboxing fight, and then I forgot. If I start piecing him up, what he's going to go do? He's going to try to wrestle it. So this is an MMA fight, and I'm going to treat it like one.
You have the ability to seem to like drum up interest in fights and get, and I know you've been trying hard to get a mega fight out there with a boxer or somebody kind of like McGregor did with Mayweather, right? It seems like it's been met with resistance. And I guess my thought on that is because so far MMA fighters have not been able to succeed against boxers, right? Where do you think you fit differently that, you're talking about Gervonta Davis, who's, undefeated world champion with a high knockout rate. He's what, I think he's 5'6", so you got a 4 or 5.
5'6", that's generous. I guarantee he's 5'4" or less. He's little. Henry Cejudo looks tall compared to him.
So do you feel like, I mean, do you feel legitimately like you could deal with boxing since you're not training in boxing every day and they are? That's a huge advantage they have, right? Do you feel like you can hang in boxing with those kind of guys?
Yeah, I mean, for me right now, I'm obviously focused on Cheeto. Only way those fights happen is if I continue. I go out there and knock Cheeto out. I go out there and knock Marab out. I go out there and knock Iole out. Then we're talking about a possible boxing fight. Is if they'd go out there and keep doing the same thing they're doing and winning big fights. So I think we're a little ways off from that. But do I think I could go out there and put up a competitive fight? Absolutely. Do I think I could win 100%? Uh, it's anything's possible in box. Look at Francis. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to see one of these guys, Ryan Garcia, come over to MMA and have any bit of a challenge. That's not realistic. Me going to boxing and being able to pull something massive off, that's a little bit more realistic. Is it difficult? Would it be insanely hard? Yes. Would I love the challenge? Absolutely. But again, Cheeto, March 9th, UFC 299 in Miami. I got to go out there and perform.
Let me ask you one other thing. You mentioned Marab being in the hole. So how close did you pay attention to that fight at UFC 298 with Henry Cejudo? And were you impressed by Marab? Did Marab show you anything that you hadn't seen before from him?
Yeah, I watched it live. I was there. It's hard to watch fights live in those spots, the ref, the cage, the poles, it's hard to watch a fight live. So I had to rewatch it when I got home. And I it reminded me of rewatching Aljo versus Henry. I rewatched that. I watched that live, rewatched it when I got home, and I was like, I just seen openings, I seen holes, I seen, you know, opportunities that I could take advantage of and put lights out. And Marab wasn't a very exciting fight 3, 4 fights ago because he's literally not. It's decision, 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 and that's not that exciting until it is exciting that no one can beat him. He has this crazy gas tank. He's done a good job on his social media. He's done a good job kind of building himself, and he just beat Henry. He's beat whoever. He's beat a bunch of guys. So that fight gets a little bit more exciting when people are saying he's unbeatable. 3, 4 fights ago, people asking about Marav. It's like he's just so boring. But now it's kind of the no one can beat him type feel. So that fight is a little bit more interesting.
Last thing, I know you're fighting in the main event of UFC 299, and Miami's going to be crazy, right? That's going to be a big week for you. Had you ever been talked about as UFC 300? Because I would think, with you being where you are in the pantheon, you could argue who's the biggest, you, Connor, John Jones. I think everybody would agree Connor number one, and then
Yeah.
who would be behind him would, could be debated. But I'm a little surprised that when you're fighting so close to 300 that you yourself didn't get on that Centennial card.
Yeah, I think I mean, you look at how big the Miami cards always are. Alex Pereira, Izzy rematch. Izzy knocked Alex out in Miami. they always go hard in Miami. They always have massive events in Miami. So I actually feel honored to be able to headline UFC 299. UFC 300 would have been, cool. I did think that was a Connor spot. Um, but I was never talked about. I think UFC Miami was kind of always on UFC's in agenda, and putting me versus Chito in there just makes sense with the Latin community over there, and it's going to be huge.
And two other questions, but one, moving you around a lot, like, you fought on the East Coast, you fought out here on the West Coast. Now you're going into the South and fighting in Miami. Where do you feel like that'll help build your fan base and make you even bigger down the road, given you fight live in all these different places?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what UFC's done such a good job of. I think they did a good job with Connor when he was kind of coming up, putting him in different locations. So, yeah, I think, it's strategic on the UFC's part. That's, me guessing, but I think it is probably strategic Abu Dhabi to Boston to Miami. So yeah, I do think it's strategic.
Last question for you. The odds are heavily in your favor. O'Malley minus 240, Vera plus 200. And actually, that's at William Hill. At DraftKings, you're even slightly bigger favorite, minus 245, and he remains there at plus 200. So I guess it would say to me the bookmaker saw that first fight and watched pretty carefully of what happened in the first few rounds. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I that's interesting. But yeah, I think that sounds I mean, I would agree. They probably watched that close fight. It's so hard. That fight was what, 2 minutes? It's so hard to get something out of a 2 minute fight just because someone lands a big shot, changes the fight. Someone lands a takedown, changes the fight. So yeah, I mean, someone did their homework.
Let me just ask you one other thing because this is interesting. On the broadcast, they said, obviously I was there at Apex. There was no fans at that time, so we didn't hear them say this. But the one thing they questioned whether it was a quick stoppage, and you got hit with that big elbow when your foot gave out and you were down. Did you feel like Herb stopped it too soon, or in retrospect, do you think he made the right call?
Um, I think he made the right call. I think he did a good job ref in that fight.
Okay, very good. Well, we will see Sugar Sean and Marlon Chito Vera again, UFC 299 on March 9th in Miami. Sean, always good to see you and always really good to see you fight. Good luck, brother.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one. See you
You
soon.
too.